Truth, everyone. Hope you're well. This video I'm talking about the runic movements. So far we've talked about the statas, these static positions that we hold for a duration of time. Now I'm focusing on the movements. And with most practices, I always start just in Isa, just in a relaxed state, centering, trying to balance my body and my energy, focusing my mind, just connecting with the breath, being fully in the body, getting out of the head. All right. So I'm just going to walk through basic movements for each rune. There are different movements for different runes, but I'm just going to stick with one for this video. Okay, so with Feyu, breathing that energy in as you inhale, and then as you exhale. So inhale, and then sending it out. With Urus, going down, breathing in, and feeling that power, feeling that energy, feeling that weight coming down. With Thurzas, there's, I guess I will give two movements for that one. You could do the sharp, pointed thorn as a very strong, forceful, or it could be something really gentle and slow, almost like a Tai Chi movement where it's just like, and then again you could have the hammer movement coming down with the sharp and feeling that power and that might and just aiming it in whatever direction or whatever your focus is in that moment. Yeah, on Sus, so a lot of the movements, the focus is on the spine. It's all about the spine, but also there's some movements that aim towards the legs, because what we're trying to do is get the energy flowing, help build strength, and all. It's good stuff. Moving your body around in a conscious way is always a good thing. So on Sus, the focus is on the lower part of the spine, and the hands again. So not all the movements are going to be synced up with the runic shapes, but in this particular one, from the side view. And so the focus is on moving the whole body with the arms and focusing on the different sensations of the spine. And even if you want to isolate certain areas and just focus on those areas. Kanaz is a really sharp, and you want that feeling from in your center, your core. You want to feel that as you do that movement. Gabo, and again the focus is on the spinal area, because we're trying to loosen up and break up any stagnation and help strengthen that area, create flexibility, because all those things not only encourage more flow of energy, but also enables you to work with more energy without messing your body up in one way or another. So again, focus on moving your awareness up the spine. So as I'm doing this, at first I might be focusing on this area of my back, but then as I move, and you can even lock apart and just focus on that area of the spine as you work with moving up the spine. And then from there, moving into Wunyo. And so really now the focus is just on this part, right? With Hagalas, generally that movement just, it's a great movement. And again, with this one particular, you're actually really stimulating and moving around the arms. So that helps with breaking up any energy or issues with that. And of course, like if you're hurt, and there's something in these movements are going to exacerbate the situation, don't do that. Use common sense. but sometimes it could just be tension or something like that. So then as you do these movements, what we're working on, as you do these movements, you can bring your attention to that area. And then again with the legs, you can, so that you're making the younger Futhark's Hagala shape and energy. So, and it's all about playing with it. It's not being rigid. So if you find the movements get awkward and stuff, whatever, or if you find yourself, maybe it's just something like this and you're focusing on that. You moved from starting with the runes movement, and then eventually you might be moving something else, and that's fine. Go with it and flow with it, because that's what I honestly believe that the body, when we give it room to do its thing, it knows what it needs to do to heal itself and to get the energy flowing. So a large part of working with movements, and even just with the staras, is just relaxing that sense of like control in order for the energy just to flow, right? Just let it go, let it flow. Yeah. Okay, so Hagalas. So Nadis, with this one, again, it's with the arms, but this one also incorporates, so as you do these movements, you can move your arms around, right? And then always remember to do the opposite movement, because you're wanting to create balance. If you just do a bunch of stuff on your right side, or moving in one direction, that actually affects the energy in certain ways. And for me, Rune Yoga is all about finding that balance. Gobo, that exchange, that sense of receiving gifts based off of reciprocity and balance, right? And that goes with movements. It goes with working with the stadas. Do both sides. Okay, now these. All right, Isa. So in the stadas, this is the extended version, and then just the normal Isa. With the with the breath, you're moving in, breathing in, and coming down into stillness. And again, and you can utilize your head moving up and then moving with your hands if you want, or you can stay forward. Again, just play with it and see and feel that. That's a major part of working with Feiyu, is just paying attention and becoming aware of our surroundings and amplifying our awareness of the senses, because those are some of the greatest gifts and some of our greatest wealth in this world, is being able to interact with it. Isa. Okay, Yara. So this one, it's all about working with the shoulders, doing different shoulder movements, and then of course, like I like to try to mimic the shape. So in a sense, like when you're doing this movement, it's creating those two triangles. And again, this is another stada you can do with Yara. But anyhow, so this is one way I get it moving, and a lot of the shoulder work is working up in the upper area, right? And in reverse again. And then oftentimes I just do a whole shoulder sequence of just going up and down. And again, you can do that sense if you want to hold to the runic shape. But really the focus is on the spine and working on strengthening and increasing flexibility and integrity of the spinal area. Because that's ultimately like what we're doing, is we're channeling all the energy, getting it flowing and channeling that excess into, into our system, but also into moving the energy around in our system and opening up higher levels of consciousness. So that's why it's, that's why it's really cool. Anyhow, so I is really focused on this movement with the head. And then also at your tailbone, at your lumbar, at your sacrum area, you're creating that, imagining the hook, and you're flexing these areas, because when in the yogic tradition there's a central channel, and so when you're moving the pelvis in that area, you're stimulating the root, what they call the root chakra, but it's just like the root of our system, basically, our digestion and all that energy going down into the root. And so we're creating this flexibility and strengthening of that area. And then also, again, because all that energy flows, and depending if we're going to circulate it, which I'll talk about in another video, or if we're actually trying to awaken, the Kundalini from the Eastern tradition of Bifrost. I've heard a couple of people say in the heathen tradition, but whatever. It's moving the energy up the spine. We don't need to have a name for it. So in that sense, so you're working on those two. All right, and then Pertho. So one of the postures I have is it's inspired by a goddess posture in yoga, just in the Indian tradition. But in the old ways, and since like sometimes giving birth was really like this, like you were holding onto a pulse, you're opening up your loins, like you're opening up your legs and stuff, and you're genuinely like giving birth, right? And that's a gamble in life, birth itself. But from looking at this posture, like from here, if you imagine closing it up again, you create that Pertho shape. But in this one, it's just about squatting, keeping centered so that you don't want to be leaning one way or another. You want to really be sinking down, and then feeling that tension going on up in your body. So there is a sense of tension, but not like gripping for life, but just a tightening of the muscles, and then a relaxing, and then a tightening and relaxing. You can correlate it from the birth perspective is like a contraction. And so that position, that posture, or that sthana in particular, definitely comes from the goddess tradition with the runes, which is pretty amazing. Let's see. Okay. Algiz, again, so with the on Sus, there was a real focus on the lower spine, with some upper, but with Algiz now, and you could try it like closed leg like that, but I generally, have my legs kind of separated and rooted because it helps. For one thing, not damaging the knees. But anyhow, so an Algiz, and so now the focus again is on that spinal twist. But you'll notice the difference as you do this between Onsus and Algiz, just by the position of the hand and how it affects. So when you move, you can again lock a certain position and just work your way up, right? Just play with it. I mean, that's the point. Move your arms around, just feel. But always with the awareness that we're not trying to hurt ourselves, so don't go out. Start slow and gentle, and build yourself up. Don't just jump right into a posture and start whipping your body around, because that's a good way to pull your muscle and do unwanted damage. So just be gentle with yourself. That's important. All right. So with Algiz, so we'll and for me. I just think of a serpent. I mean, because it definitely flows with Kundalini yoga, and just the Sohila. I know it's like a lightning bolt or whatever, but this. So the idea of the snake, and so now you're kind of moving your body like a snake and work your way up and down the spine. Like you can even be like flopsy. It doesn't matter. Like don't worry about it looking pretty. Just focus on the spine and kind of create that S shape, right? And work your way up. Just play with it. Again, that's the key, right? It's all about playing with it, honing your awareness, and using the breath to help stimulate the energy and get it flowing in your body. Which I'll talk about breath work in a future video because that's important. All right, Tiwas. Just again, I mean, here's your shape, but it's just about hopping, and just letting your body do its thing, because this is definitely a great way to stimulate the energy and get things like waking you up, woo-hoo, but also in breaking up stagnation and helps with soreness, I think, and definitely just with feeling all kinked up and kind of like you've been sitting all day. It's just like a good thing to break up stuff. Um, Burkana, so that to me is like the moving. So you're kind of, so this is the belly, right, and then the chest. And in the Eastern yoga traditions, it's basically a variations of the camel, and it's really a lot better to do sitting down because you can really it's a lot easier to isolate as you move up the spine. But again, it's just that kind of forward, sharp kind of movement back and forth, all up and down your spine. So it was like, there's a kind of a meditative movement where it's just, you just kind of imagining that you're on a horse, you know, somewhat of a horse stance in martial arts, not a full-fledged one, but like if you were actually genuinely sitting on a horse and holding onto the reins. So there's your shape if you wanted the shape, but really just a sense of, and of course if you've never ridden a horse, then watch a lot of videos and stuff just to kind of see the movement that people make as they ride a horse, and then just try to mimic it, while at the same time focusing on your body, right? Focusing on the spine, focusing on your arms and your legs, just getting that energy flowing and feeling good. The second one is again in this one, but you're actually like walking in a way. And with this, you want to stay grounded, and then of course the visualization is to ultimately, you know, become the horse. Like that first one is really about the rider, and this one is really about envisioning the horse and trying to embody its energy so that you know, you can connect with it and use that energy for your aims. So manaz, sometimes I do it with like this, but more times than not now I focus on just dancing. You know, just turning on some music and dancing out a full song and allowing my body to, you know, first connecting with the rhythm and the beat and getting into the flow, but then allowing my body to do its thing. And the more that you do these movements and even the stadas, the more you're training your subconsciousness to recognize these positions or these movements and the effects that arise because of them. And so then now as you're just allowing yourself to be human and flow and laugh and enjoy and just dance and let go, there's that those movements and stuff, you'll notice that they'll start to be involved in your dance. And then again, as you do this, focus on the spine, right? Focus on your body, of course, to make sure if there's any stagnation or anything, give it a few moments of attention, you know? Really focus, and if it's on my hand, then maybe I'll just do some more hand movements as I boogie down to the music or whatever. But, so yeah, manaz for me, more so than not now, it's just all about that. Just doing all the movements in a way, but doing it to a beat that is not necessary. You know, if you're dancing to someone's song, then that's their rhythm and their stuff. And so it'll affect your movements in different ways. So yeah, manaz, and then okay, so then laguz. Get a drink of water while I'm doing that. And I got some rain coming on me, which is a blessing, you know. Water is a good thing. So laguz, I just think of water, you know, and I'll start with the shape and just kind of move and just let my body kind of flow with it, you know. And it could be really big ones, or it could just be real subtle. You know, again, just play along with it. Play around with it and see what comes up. With ingwas, so with that, I'll do a lower circle, right? So it's more about my legs. And again, what you do one way, you should do the other. And then I'll focus on moving my upper body. Right? And you can use your shoulders to give you that. And then also doing it on the horizontal plane. Right? And this, again, just with the focus of, so when you're doing other than Pertho, most of these other movements is really like we're doing the movement and we're using the muscles that are needed to be used to do those movements, but we're like relaxed. Like we're not tight. We're not holding on. We're just flowing with that and connecting with the feel, right? And you don't have to go way out there either. As you notice, you could just do subtle movements. It doesn't take much to create that sense of energy flow and movement, right? And then just pay attention to it, pay attention to it. Because that's key in order for the later work in which you start to use the body's energy for whatever purpose you've set. Better get out of here before the camera gets messed up. Where are we at? With the gauze, think of that figure 8, and I just use the arms at first, right? But you don't have to. Just create that. So it's similar. It's kind of like a mix of Sowilo and Inguas in the sense that you're creating this flow, but in a figure 8 shape, right? And again, you can kind of just play around with it, see what comes up. And then Atado is really just about extending and coming down, right? Extending and coming down. So you're extending out and then relaxing into, and then just be present. And then again, at the end, finishing the Isa, just center yourself, be present, enjoy, and be well. All right, till next video.
Odin, Thor, Freyr, Freya, Sif, Frigga.